So Dr. Nichols, tell us about how you're working with districts in this county to make those changes that we've been talking about.
Well, you know, we have the system that we're developing, it has at its basis Dean Fixen's implementation theory, like I mentioned at the end of the last video. What we're doing is really looking at how to address the implementation gap, because many of the things that we teach in this training, we tell the teachers we're not teaching you a whole bunch of new stuff, but we're teaching you how to tightly weave it together to support all students who are not yet proficient or advanced. So what we've done is we've created for our training what we call our practice profile based on Fixen's work.
Can you define what's his work? Is there a name of his book?
It's implementation science or implementation theory, where he looks at there's different stages that you have to go through to go to high levels of implementation.
And Fixen is V-I-X-E-N?
F-I-X-S-E-N.
Okay, see?
Dean Fixen, yeah.
F-I-X-S-E-N. S-E-N, in case you want to look up the book.
Yeah. And I don't have a copy of his book or I'd show it to you right now, but I've given it out and loaned it to someone. But what we've done is we've developed this practice profile. And it is used by the teachers as a reflective piece so that they're able to see wherever they're at. And we purposefully listed all the different components here on the left, but we've oriented the rating scale from right to left because we want them to associate the highest level of implementation with the strategies. We use the same descriptors as on the APS, the Academic Program Survey, and then giving them an opportunity every time they come for another day's worth of training. They reflect on what they learned the previous day and look at what they're doing 24/7 in their own classroom and highlighting the descriptors that describe where they're at so that they can see as they come for each new day of training, and they use a different color marker to see how they're moving across this continuum towards high levels of implementation. We also use this when we go through classroom walkthroughs when I do the principal coaching with the principals. But this has become a real critical piece because what the teachers, we didn't develop this right away. We were into almost our third year, the beginning of our third year of the training, when teachers kept saying, I know what it looks like when you do it here in the training, but I don't know what it's going to look like. What would it look like for me in my classroom when I'm just starting out because I'm not as good as you? And so we took a couple months and we put this together. This has been dynamic. Let me share with you some of the data from a year ago, and as we're just finishing this year. This is from 2011, 2012. This is the API data for our sites that were involved in the training. Now last year we had sites that were going through first year training, second year support, and third year support. And so this is their data. So what we did at the end of each year, we sit down, those of us that are working with the districts, and we rate them based on their level of implementation overall as a site. We use the same 4 rating levels here for their overall rating. And then what we did is we disaggregated their data on the API to see what kind of gains they made based on the level of implementation. Well, this is for our level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4, which is full implementation, substantial implementation, partial, and then no evidence or just beginning. One of the things that teachers look at when they see this in the training, are we in the first year of training? Does that mean we're going to lose 7 API points? And I share with them typically when we go into school sites then do this training, because it's funded in part by the RISDAS grant, which is a regional district and school support grant. What we do is we're working with districts and schools that are in PI, districts that have been PI year 3 for years and years and years, and schools that have been PI year 5 plus 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 plus. They have significant issues. So what this is saying in the first year and at the lowest level of implementation, the teachers are just learning how to put this system together. But you can see the relative growth, and typically this will be your second year, and some of our sites have just shot up. This is at the highest level of implementation. So our highest implementers last year, 26 points API gain. When you average all of these together, it was 10 points API gain. But let's put it in context, because you can look at data, and if you don't have a context, it doesn't have a significant level. The state average was 5. So our DI districts, even though some of them were at the first year of implementation overall, they were at, their API increase was twice what it was at the state. But we also looked at similar schools, and that was only a 7 average on the state level. This was a 10. So the news was really good, and that really gets teachers and administrators excited, because we know that as we move forward to the new reauthorization of ESEA, what we may be seeing is a more improvement model like we see under API versus the status model under AYP. Then we share the data for the AYP, and similarly here, a first year or lowest level of implementation, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. This is AYP for language arts. Again, overall, average of the 4 levels is 2.2. State average was 1.8, and similar schools was 1.4. When you're looking at this, sometimes teachers will say, well, it's only 5.1 percentage points. But on the AYP, that's the difference between making safe harbor and not making safe harbor. That's 5% of your kids you're moving, and that's, you can see, even the whole state's not doing that. With math, same overall effect of a 4.6 benefit, and look at the difference between the state average was 1.0 and the highest implementers was 4.6. This gets us a lot of traction, helps us grow a little bit of Velcro with regards to their interest and engagement in actually moving to higher levels based on the practice profile. And so what we do then is we build in, with the principal coaching, ways for the principals to systematically support this at their sites, which I'd like to talk with you about in our next video.
Good. I'd just like to stop here because I think this document really represents when we create a program that is based on best practices and research shows makes a difference. If we don't do it with fidelity, it's not going to get us where we want to be. And this rubric helps us see if we're doing it with fidelity.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean that everybody's marching to the same drummer. It's making sure we're providing all the strategies at the level that students need them. And this is an accountability piece that's not an accountability piece in the way of being a gotcha, but a way of seeing how close are we to doing what we wanted to do. And I think this is incredible.
Thank you. Well, and you know what the teachers like about it? And I tell them the walkthroughs are about me gathering data because I want to model being the reflective practitioner that I want them to be. Because after a day's worth of training, we wait about 2 or 3 weeks and then go into the sites and see how it's going. I always make sure that I have a positive, facial expression and my body language. I get permission. I usually take a lot of pictures in their classrooms, and they're very proud of that. But it helps me to really look at where they're at so that I can meet them where they're at, wherever they're at here. And I do it by grade level, or in the secondary sites, I do it by department. And I'm able, when I come back and meet with them again, I meet them where they're at, give them the kudos for what I saw, and then I seek to take them to the next level. And one thing that's really been valuable for the teachers is they feel like it's a very respectful way for them to be able to kind of gauge their own progress. In fact, I always have them do what we call 1 to glow and 1 to grow, and I know that's something that we use a lot in education. But they are so proud when they can say, I am really strong in my content objectives. And my kids, those kids that are not proficient or advanced, they need that clear path. They need to know what to pay attention to when I'm teaching, because often they cannot figure out what I'm talking about. But my more proficient kids, in a quick second they can. This is having such a powerful impact. And then 1 to grow is one that's not as high, but they can see based on the practice profile, they just have one little thing to do to really move into that next category, the next higher level. And they get so excited. You know what? I see I only need to do this, so here's my plan. When I get back to the classroom this next week, what I'm going to do is this, this, and this. And they get feedback from the peer that they're sharing with, because that peer may be at that really high level.
And think about, isn't that what they do with students? Mm-hmm. It's terrific.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
next video.